we're going to record it anyway.
Oh,
So let's go ahead and get started. And then, yeah, there we go. And so I'm going to do the intro, and then Eric's going to pull up the PowerPoint and share his screen. Is that correct?
That's the way we can do it.
Okay, yay. So 10:01, let me put myself in the screen officially. Marie, say your last name.
Herod, like the department store in London.
Oh, well, welcome, because I've never been to the department store in London.
I haven't either.
Okay, so 10:02. Good morning and welcome to our NAREB's first time home buyers course. We have with us Eric Hudson, Marie Herod, Vicki Pridemore, and myself, Aisha Sotelo. We are here to go over the basics of becoming a first-time home buyer and just to give you guys the basic information. Marie Herod is a title officer with equity title. Vicki Pridemore is our lender on the call, or sorry, on the Zoom meeting with us from OnQ. And then we have our realtor online, which is Eric Hudson. Let's see, we're gonna have Eric go ahead and share his screen with us, and we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay, well everyone, let's go ahead and get this puppy rolling. And can everyone see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Well, today we're going to talk about finding your new home, and we are NAREB. We are connected with the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Locally, we are the Nevada Association of Real Estate Brokers. And here we go. Hold on. Here we go. So let's start off. We're going to talk about the 6 reasons where you would want to own a home. Okay, there we go. Can everyone hear that?
Yes.
So I'm sure you can understand why it's important to own a home instead of just being a renter. Now, there's nothing wrong with renting. In the case of renting, you're making someone else wealthy instead of yourself. Just look at what the home appreciation has been over the last few years. And to be honest, it's not getting any better. We have a shortage of homes here in the Valley. And so that's one of the purposes of NAREB. We're here to help everyone realize the dream of home ownership, because everyone deserves to have a piece to call them own. NAREB was established back in 1947 to help everyone in their home ownership dreams. And we are a philanthropic real estate related membership organization. Many of the people you see here on the panel are currently members of NAREB, and there are many members in the real estate profession around the Las Vegas area who are members, not only real estate agents, we have lenders, title people, home inspection companies, and we call ourselves realtists instead of realtors. So just a quick little history. And let's get into the home buying process. So I got another quick video for you. Can everyone hear that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, even though they say contact me and get started, there's no contact me. Right now, this is purely educational for everyone. And you can choose your own real estate professional as you choose. We're just here to offer education for everyone out there today because you deserve that. So let's start talking about the buyer's roadmap. First thing you want to do is meet with your real estate professional. And you want to sit down and go over your hopes, likes, dreams, and so forth with them. The next step is one a lot of people seem to skip, getting a pre-approval. Vicky, I want you to speak just to a second about how important that pre-approval is.
Well, it's very important, first of all, to know how much you qualify for before a realtor. You don't want to make an offer on a property and then get your heart broke, to not qualify for it. So it's good to sit down with the lender. And if there's any obstacles, credit, for example, that lender will sit down with you and help you smooth over those bumps in the road, so to speak. So they can get you a pre-approval. That way, when you do find the house that you like, your realtist can present the offer, and a seller is not going to take their house off the market without having an underwriting pre-approval. And a lot of times that can be done within 24 hours after talking to the lender. And sometimes you don't even need to go in and meet with the lender. They can do it over the phone or through the computer.
Okay, good. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we get deeper into it. Now you start your search for homes. So this is the fun part. It's like Disneyland. I'm sorry, going to the lender can sometimes be like going to the principal's office and now you want to go to Disneyland. This is your Disneyland. You are free and clear, ready to go, and we start searching for homes for you. Now, you found that perfect home. You're going to make an offer on it. And then we get into the sometimes not fun part. We're going to get into negotiations and the contracts. So it's going to be more boring than that principal time. And once we get that done, we'll go under contract and we take it into what's known as escrow. Marie, can you speak briefly to escrow?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're kind of that last car on the train of cars. So once that offer has been accepted, then we open up escrow. Escrow and title, we are that neutral third party. We don't work for the seller. We don't work for the buyer. We don't work for the lender. We work on mutual agreement by all parties. And we really are the go-between with money and documents. So at the very end of the transaction, we make sure that the home you're purchasing has nothing on it that's flawed that will cause a problem for you in the future. And then you're also provided title insurance to protect you against things that maybe the title or wouldn't have found. So that's our portion of that, and we will see you at the very end of all of your fun shopping.
Okay, good. And we go through the little final details, and we get to closing day, and that's what this is all about, getting you from the beginning to the end to your closing day. This is just a rehash of what we just talked about. For those of you who've registered, we're going to send this out to you so you don't have to worry about an eye strain chart here or anything. And it goes through what each one of these means. And this is something you should go ahead and put in your little notebook for your home buying process. That way you kind of understand where you're at. So when your agent starts talking about escrow, you at least have a little bit of information there. So let's talk about buying versus renting, because that is just as important, because most people who have the most equity, not just equity, but net worth, are owners, homeowners. So let's talk about that for just a second. Okay. So you see how important buying is as opposed to renting. It's going to increase your net worth. You're paying for your own home now. Now that landlord didn't put you in that house, charge you rent to be charitable to you. They did it to make money. So you're paying a certain amount of rent. That person takes your rent payment, they pay their mortgage. And from that, they build equity and they build their wealth. This is a chance for you to build your wealth. So are you ready to buy? Now, do you have a good steady income? Low to medium debt. So we have different debt ratios based on types of loans. Do you have cash down for your payment, your closing cost? And do you have 2 months of pay stubs and your bank statements? And have you been with the same company for 2 years? Now, there are some exceptions to this. Now, Vicki, can you talk about the exceptions to the 2 years with the same company?
The exception would be we do want to see a 2-year income stream. For example, if you switch jobs and there's no job gaps, that's usually okay. In some cases, you might not even be working, but you have income such as disability or retirement or child support, that type of thing. That income is usable as well. Maybe you just got out of school and you started a new job. As long as what we're looking for, the reason they ask for 2 years is if you have fluctuating income where it goes up and down like overtime, commission, we want to take an average of that because we want to have a good idea going forward what your income will be. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, good. And what about for the new college grads out there, since they don't have that 2 years of work history?
For the new, let's say you're just out of school or just out of the military and you're starting something new, if it's hourly at 40, if it's guaranteed, if it's a salary, we're going to take your new income. If it's fluctuating, which means it goes up and down, we want to be able to take an average. So that's where a case by case, talking to a lender and having them take a look at your profile and see what we can do. But generally speaking, if you're just started a new job and we know we can predict what your income's going to be, we're going to use it.
Okay. And what's the waiting period, let's say, for a new college grad, like 3 months, 6 months?
If they've started their job and their salary, I can't think of a great example right at the minute, but let's just say you're salaried and full-time, as long as you've had sometimes we'll go ahead and get you pre-approved and just wait for you to start the job and get your first pay stub before we close the loan.
Oh, you'll close as soon as your face is on the first pay stub for a new college.
If it's a salary,
Okay.
yes. If it's a full-time guaranteed out or full-time hourly at 40, but a lot of times they want to see 30 days. Mm-hmm. If it's like a 40-hour week, they want to see 30 days just to make sure that it's not 39 hours this week and 42 the next. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to get right into Vicki's portion. We're going to talk about that pre-approval. So talk about choosing that lender.
Okay, so choosing the lender, a lot of times start with your real estate agent and ask them if they have a couple that they can suggest, or talk to your friends and ask them who they've used. Look on our NAREB website and see who's a member, because a lot of times the more involved that we are in the community, that we're going to look after your best interests as a home buyer. So, if you bank with a bank, sometimes start with your bank and ask them what kind of programs they have. There are a lot of programs that don't require a down payment. If you're a veteran, of course, there's the zero down VA. If you're not a veteran, there's other opportunities to take advantage of down payment assistance.
Okay, good. And you just brought up the magic word.
I haven't seen this PowerPoint yet. But yes, down payment assistance, we have a lot of programs. I'll just mention a couple. And you can look them up on the website, but there's Home is Possible, which is managed through the Nevada Housing Division. Mm-hmm. There's Chinoa, which is a very flexible one that that gives you the down payment. And I think, Eric, you touched on this earlier. A lot of times if you have no money down, but you will be asked to provide an earnest money. And I'll let Eric talk about that as a realtor. Anyway, filling out the loan application, you can do it old school, go sit down with the loan officer, or you can do it online. A lot of lenders have beautiful mobile apps. You can touch your phone and do it that way, or you can, do it online. So we have technology now.
Okay, good. And what kind of documents they need to bring to a lender?
Most lenders will require 1 month of pay stubs, 2 months of bank statements, sometimes tax returns, sometimes not, depending upon the type of income you have. If it's commission, bonus, self-employment, we definitely need the tax returns. And then of course, we're going to verify that employment. So in those cases where you've just started your job and maybe you have an offer letter, we'd want to see that. And then I'm reading the PowerPoint, it says 580 credit score. So that is the minimum for FHA. FHA is the most flexible, one of the most flexible programs, and they set that score. Each lender has what we call overlays. They might have their own rules. So ask your lender, if your score is 580, let's say it's 570, then sit down and ask your lender what's bringing you down, what's bringing it below that 580 mark. In order to get the down payment assistance, however, they do have a little bit higher requirements in some cases. So that's where your lender can direct you and advise you.
Good. Okay. Now we're on to Disneyland, your home search. Yay! Okay, so let's start thinking about what you're looking for and the features that you actually need. And so a lot of people, they go into it, I want granite countertops and marble floors, and I want an upgraded kitchen, and I need a pool in the back, and I only want to pay $200,000. So we have to get into reality here. Some things you need to start thinking about are, reality. I don't know if you've ever seen South Park. There was that episode, they had Mr. Reality. So this is reality speaking. You have to look at where it's located. One of the things I like to do for folks is to tell them there's this wonderful tool that's just been invented. Nobody knows about it. It's called Google. And they have this product called Google Maps. I'm serious, no one's heard of this. Look at the property you're thinking about on Google Maps and figure out things like, how far is it to get to work? You can actually type in there the location, your job, or the school of one of your children, or any place else you need to be, and it tells you how long it takes to get there. So if you have to be within 20 minutes drive distance of a job, because I actually had that one time with a guy who had to live within a 20-minute drive distance in case he was called out on an emergency from his job. That's where your Google comes in, because just because something's close, you may be driving through a lot of little streets and stuff like that. And some people say they don't care where they live, but then later they start realizing, I don't want to commute for an hour in traffic from one end of the valley to the other when I can do it in 20 minutes. So think about that. The price, narrow that down. Think about the price compared to interest rates. Go over that with your lender and your real estate agent, because just because you're paying $20,000 more for property, based on the interest rates, your payments may not be that much more. So just that $50,000 puts you into a huge difference. And also think about that if you're going from, let's say, I'm going to save a little bit of money by getting a condo. So you get a nice condo, but your HOA fees are $350 a month. You still could have had a house if you wanted it. So you settled on a condo without thinking about everything that's involved. And look at that square footage. How are you going to use it? Bedrooms. A lot of people say I need a 4-bedroom house. Then it boils down. They needed 2 or 3 bedrooms. They needed the other 2 bedrooms for something else. Well, what if you had to have an office at home because you work from home? Especially now, after the COVID-19 crisis, a lot of people are not going to be returning to the office, and they're going to need homes or offices in their homes. Well, you don't have to have a bedroom for an office. You have to have a room that suffices. That can be a den. It could be a bonus room. It can be a loft. Think about those. Number of baths, the styles, the features that you need. And even if you don't have children, you should think about the schools, because the school systems affect the value of that home. One home can be on one side of the street. It can be south of Charleston Boulevard. Another home can be not even a quarter of a mile away, north of Charleston Boulevard, but because of the differences in schools, it could be a $50,000, $100,000 difference in that home. So if you want more appreciation, look at the school districts and look those up. Great tool for that, greatschools.org. So some of the search tools. Okay. We, of course, have Zillow, TrulyRealtor.com, things like that. They work fine. I'm not going to badmouth them. The thing is, when the summertime hits, and look at right now, a lot of houses I call on have multiple offers, which means they're moving quick. They're not connected directly to the MLS, and those that are get the feed kind of one way when it's listed. When a house goes under contract, it doesn't show that. So you don't want to waste your time with that. Get with an agent who has an IDX website. And the way our current board is set up, there is actually IDX website set up for your agent. And just make sure they're using something that's going to benefit you. That's the important part, what benefits you. You can, of course, search on outside websites. Remember, during a fast moving market like we're having right now, may not be the best. You can look for yard signs. I'm going to give you a warning on yard signs. Have you ever seen a sold sign in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, or Henderson? The answer is, now that you think about it, rarely or no. The signs aren't even made to put those on there like in other markets, because realtors realize that people will call on those houses even though they've been sold. And some of them will actually write in the contract that the sign will stay on the house for 60 days, 30 days after it's closed and people have moved in. Why do they do that? To get more business, which means you're just calling for them to generate business, which is perfectly fine. It's just they're trying to direct you or just get you into their database. So be careful on that. Work with a realtor. When you see a sign, call your real estate agent up. Open houses, great way to find homes. But remember, you're seeing a small portion, that just those houses that they're allowing an open house to be seen at. But it's also a great place for you to meet realtors. If you don't know anyone, you're new to town, you have no idea, go to an open house. The realtor there will help you. You can go to model homes, aka new builds. Now we got a lot of nice new builds coming in. We got Sky Point going up in the Centennial Hills area, up in the far northwest. A lot of good homes going out there. You can go visit the builders. As of this webinar that we're having today, a lot of the builders, they don't allow you to walk in anymore. So you do have to figure out that place and give them a call and make an appointment. So just a heads up, your friends, friends and family, they are a great help in helping you find a home because they know what's going on in their neighborhood. My wife's not a real estate agent. She knows before I know when a house goes for sale in our neighborhood. And I got for sale by owners. That's something you can look for. There are different websites, buyowner.com, military.com, fisber.com. You can go there and look for people who are trying to sell their house themselves. Nothing against that. They can do what they want. There is, be honest, on your end, not that much, but there's more legal liability on their end because if they make mistakes that they didn't know about, you could be the victim of that. But, get yourself a real estate agent. They'll work with a real estate agent. If they don't, there's something wrong. And of course, you got your automated search tools. Once you get set up on a good site from your real estate agent, you can go ahead and set it up for what you want. I want 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single-story homes with pools in 89135. That works, and it'll send you everything that comes up every day. time to make that offer. Now, so you fall in love with that home. Now, here's a good tip. When you're going through a home now, we have this thing called cameras. And so you're thinking they can't record me while I'm doing this. That's illegal. It is the legal opinion of the legal staff of the, they've changed the name, Las Vegas Realtors, that you're in someone's home. They can record you, including your voice. Don't say anything negative about the home while you're in there. It may affect you. Don't gush about how much you love the home, because that's going to affect your negotiation powers. You may not see that camera. Some of them are being sneaky because they want to get the intel on you. The same way you ask the real estate agent, why are they selling? Because you didn't just ask for grins and giggles. You're asking to see if you have a leg up. They're looking for a leg up on you. Look for what the seller wants. It's not always about the price. Sometimes it's about their convenience. They need to be somewhere. They bought a new house in Miami. They're moving in the middle of August. Well, gee whiz, that's 2 months from now. Well, we can make this where it's a 2-month to help them out so they don't have to move early. Or we could close, we can do a seller lease back where they lease the house back from you. These are things that can be done. If you make it easy for them, they may make it easy on you. May make it easy on you. Earnest money. This is your skin in the game. So even if you're on a no down payment program like the VA loan, or you have some kind of down payment assistance, you're still going to have to put this earnest money down. And this is to, I'm not going to say compensate it. This is to convince the seller to take their house off the market. Can you imagine you're trying to sell your house and it's the middle of selling season and you took your house off the market and then 3 weeks later it falls apart? Now you ask, do they get to keep this if it falls apart? It depends. The majority of the time, as a buyer, you're going to get this money back. You have what's known as due diligence. You can get the money back for that. You can get the money back for HOA because you get 73% of the homes in the valley are under an HOA. You get to review the HOA documents. If you don't like what you see, you can cancel for that reason. If you do things properly, if you don't get your loan because you have a loan contingency or it doesn't appraise, these are conditions in which you can get your HOA or your earnest money back. Now, I'm going to be upfront with you and say something no one else is going to say. Everyone is going to say you're going to get this money back. The law states you're going to get this money back in those cases and some others. Here's the problem. 2 people have to sign on the dotted line to say you're going to get your money back. Sometimes a seller may not want to sign on that dotted line. Marie, can you talk to that for just a second? Because that's going to be a little bit in your area.
Yeah, cancellations are interesting because, again, as a neutral third party, we have to have both parties agree to cancel, and we have to have both parties agree as to where those funds go. And, you know, everybody's always happy in the beginning, but sometimes things go south. And so there are times that we have sellers that they kind of go MIA, they don't sign it. And then, that leads on into earnest money mediation, where somebody actually has to sit with them and figure out who is going to get it. How are you going to split it? So you're absolutely correct. It should be, in many cases, goes right back to the buyer, but getting both of those folks to sign that and agree on that at that point is sometimes not always so easy on our end to get that accomplished.
Okay, good. Thank you. Look at your down payment and the amount of financing you need. Now, there are different programs out there. We all know about the VA loan. There's USDA. There's only a few little areas for that. It's kind of like a VA loan, but it's to encourage people to buy in rural areas. Believe it or not, there are rural areas in Las Vegas. You also have the FHA loan. It requires 3.5% down. On the conventional portion, which is the majority, which is a good bit of people, there's all kinds of programs. You don't have to have 20%. It could be 10%, 5%, 3%. 1%, and I just recently dealt with one where it was a 0 down conventional loan. Talking about down payment and different types of conventional loans. What have you seen, Vicki?
The difference between an FHA and a conventional, anytime you put less than 20% down, you're going to have one or the other. FHA is government insured, conventional is private mortgage insurance, which is called PMI. That being said, conventional has higher thresholds, a little bit tougher to qualify for. FHA, which is insured by the government, was established years ago to help people get past those tough guidelines. So for just real quick, without boring you with TMI, there is a few things such as reserves, money left over in your savings account after you close. FHA is more flexible about that. FHA is more flexible about the credit score. They're more flexible about the debt to income. So it might make a difference. You might be buying a house. I think, Eric, you mentioned, maybe you want that house that's $50,000 higher. You be getting a sales price that's a lot higher on a FHA loan because you don't want to have to buy and then buy again in a couple of years. Hopefully, you get the house that you want.
Okay, thank you. And there are many important dates for you to monitor along with your real estate professional. Ask for these dates to make sure they're being met. You have a right to these. Some of them are your due diligence dates. So ask when that is going to be so you'll know if things haven't happened, like your inspection hasn't finished, you haven't finished negotiating anything from that inspection, that you meet that and something happens, either an extension to your contract or something else. Appraisal is another hard date to worry about. Same thing with your bank loan. So make sure you have those and back each other up. Okay, inclusions in a home. These are interesting. Refrigerator does not come with a home in Nevada. It's considered personal property. Same thing with the washer and dryer. Now, many sellers will leave those behind. It's more of an incentive to sell the house faster. So if there's no refrigerator, there's no washer and dryer, you need to buy a refrigerator and washer and dryer. So keep that in mind. The stove is supposed to come there. If there is a hole for it or a space, it's supposed to have a dishwasher. So that's pretty much it. They don't have to have a garbage disposal for you. And coming in thinking that you're going to go like, oh, these are old appliances, I want new, so I want to negotiate the price down for that. You can try that. In this market, good luck. Okay, so now we've gotten that, and we'll go through everything from making an offer, and they can counter that offer, and we can just go back and forth, and we'll see whether or not we're going to get it. So they can accept it, counter offer, or decline it. Same thing for yourself. Now let's pretend we have a happy day here, and your offer's been accepted. Now you're going to write that check for earnest money out. I say that figuratively because, Marie, do you want a check?
So it kind of depends. We do prefer a wire, and it also depends on when it's going to close. So if it's a transaction that's a cash transaction that may be closing quickly, we certainly would not want a personal check because those have to clear. But we've got an occasion, a transaction happening right now, and we have a client whose bank is nowhere here. And so it's not closing for about 45 days. And so she's having an issue doing the wire. So we can take a check because we have time to make sure that that check clears. So ideally, yes, it would be a wire for that earnest money, but there are some instances where we have taken a personal check.
Okay, good. But no cash.
No cash. Back in the day, people would walk in with a briefcase, but we don't do that anymore. There's too much counting involved.
Now, I do have a question. It brought up, I made the joke about cash. There were two cities, Las Vegas and Miami, where title was supposed to be, and the lenders are supposed to look closer at the transactions because there are a lot of cash transactions going on. Are we still under that mandate from the federal government?
Not if what we were looking at at one point with respect to cash transactions, there were issues with respect to fraud, people purchasing vacant land or selling vacant land that they didn't really have ownership to. And so many of the title companies now, when someone's paying cash for vacant land, we actually send a letter to the address of the assessor that they have for the true owner, just thanking them for using us. It's kind of one of those, if they're selling it, they're happy to get the letter. If they're really not selling it, it kind of stops that issue because they're going to pick up the phone and say, I'm not selling my house. What's going on?
Okay.
What we're seeing right now is a lot of investors that are starting to unload their properties that they have. So.
Okay. And next, once you've gotten your offer accepted, earns money in, you want to get the house inspected. This is not required. It is highly, highly, highly recommended for multiple reasons. You don't want to have to worry about the proverbial dead cat in the walls, or worse yet, no plumbing in the walls. So you have an independent person who's going to come in, they're going to check all of those systems for you. And one caveat is they can only inspect what they can see. So if it is behind a wall, they cannot see that. Now, some inspectors will do things like they have FLIR, and they can see like there's moisture and things like that. Some of them are now flying drones to do the roof inspection. So it can get really high tech. They're going to check all the electrical plugs. They're going to check your water pressure. Got a pool, they're going to check the operation of your pool equipment and bring up any issues that you may have. And with that, you can request repairs from the seller. And the seller can choose to repair, not repair, or maybe give you a little bit of cash to make you go away. And then you have the appraisal. We'll get deeper into that later. The appraisal is there primarily for the bank to make sure that they are lending on the proper amount. So if you buy a house for $400,000 and it's really worth $350 because the seller wants $400,000, Vicki, are you going to lend them $400,000 on that house?
That's where the realtor comes in, and that's where the power of negotiation. And that's why it's important to have a buyer's agent. And I don't know that we touched on that, but a buyer does not pay their buyer's agent. But you do need somebody in your corner when there are issues that arise, such as, you know, the inspection, such as the appraisal. And you do get a copy of your appraisal so that you can see what the other homes in the area have sold for.
Correct. And also something to keep in mind, the appraiser should be looking at homes that have sold that did not make it to the MLS. So there are plenty of homes that sell that don't make it to the MLS. Those for sale by owner homes we're talking about. That's one example where it may never make it there. So the appraisal is going to protect everyone on that to make sure you're paying the proper amount for the house. The next one is home insurance. You got to have that. Best to start as early as you can so you can get the best deal. Get that information over to your lender, because if you don't give it to them, they will find a home insurance company for you, and you may not get the best deal on that. And of course, you're going to finalize the mortgage details with your lender, and they're also going to reconcile that information with the title folks. And a day or so before, and I highly suggest you do it the day before or morning of, you want to walk through that property. The things you're looking for, if the sellers are supposed to move, you want to make sure they actually moved. You don't want to be the person where they didn't move and then you show up with your goods. They're like, our house wasn't ready, so we just decided to stay.
That happens more than we think.
It does. So you don't want to be that person. And another one is, I've had people like, they're like spring loaded. Like house was vacant. They want to go in there and they want to go ahead and do that walkthrough. It's like, well, let's wait a little bit. Spring loaded. Let's do it. Okay, let's wait a little bit. And you do it, and it's like 1 or 2 days prior, and it's in them certain sides of town. And you go to give them the key, there's somebody living there. That's why you want to do it the night prior or the day that you're signing, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't want to have to worry about getting rid of that squatter.
Or the appliances took off.
Yeah, and the air conditioner, hot water heater, and the copper in the walls. True story.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, you really need that home inspection because the inspector is looking for all of those day-to-day things. Now, they're going to mention all the most mundane things in the world. That is for liability coverage, because if they say they didn't mention something, even though it has nothing to do with the function of the house, and you may have never seen it, you will come back and go, well, that inspector, he didn't do his job or her job. So they're going to mention all these mundane things. The mundane things, more than likely, the seller is not going to repair for you or give you any compensation. You're looking for the big items. The water doesn't run. The hot water heater, sorry, water heater is not heating up. The stove doesn't work. Those are functions. There's a leak in the roof that no one's noticed yet. It's just piling up in the attic. Those are the things you need to worry about. Because if you want a perfect house, they build a brand new house, ask anyone who's bought a new house. There's plenty wrong with them. So a 10-year-old house has plenty wrong with it. And if you want a perfect house, be prepared to pay a perfect price, which is a lot more than you're probably paying. The appraisal. Now, this is a big sticking point, and it probably gets more deals canceled than anything else because a lot of sellers want what they want for their house. Their neighbor sold for $350. Well, if they sold for $350, I should be able to sell for $375 or $400. I mean, you see this, and it's funny. One neighbor lists for $350 and they sell. The next neighbor lists for $375, and the next one hasn't even sold yet, lists for $400. Well, guess what? The houses may all be worth $350. But they want this now. And the appraiser protects you from this. They have this universal appraisal standard, which is to protect us from having an issue like we had back in 2008. So they're going to determine value based on a combination of really weird math tricks like what other houses sell for. And if there's a rapidly rising market, they will apply that rise to it. And what upgrades they have. This house has, old tile countertops in the kitchen. This one has brand new granite. Well, brand new granite is going to get a higher value. And if they may come back what is known as appraisal conditions. And these are things that are required to be fixed. So this is one where they can't just throw money at you and can't say no. These have to be fixed. Oh, the water heater doesn't work. This loan requires a water heater to work. They have to fix it. We have these broken windows in the back. They have to fix it. The roof is 50% needs to be replaced, or we're not going to write this FHA loan. It has to be fixed. Those are appraisal conditions. And we've talked about what items must be included. So the stove, dishwasher, if there's a hole for it. Refrigerator, no. Washer and dryer, no. If they have a chandelier or ceiling fan, that has been attached to the property. So unless they have explicitly excluded it, when you come back and that fancy chandelier is gone, you can sue them. So make sure that fancy chandelier is there. The window coverings, believe it or not, are considered real property unless they exclude them. So look out for those exclusions, or ask the question to, prevent something in the future, because, one partner may have loved those window coverings and bought the house for those window coverings. Now we get to a sticking point, COVID-19. People want to sell their homes. They don't want people in their homes. So they're now doing a lot of what's called drive-by appraisals, which means they're just basing everything off of past sales and current sales. So if you have, the seller doesn't want them in the house, they don't have to get in the house now. Now, if there's special stuff in that house, like, they have these beautiful floors and crown molding and all this stuff, they're never going to see that. And so they can't appraise for something they can't see. So it could end up lower, which may work out, may not. We'll see how that works for you. Okay, Marie, you're up.
So what does an escrow company do? So we are that neutral third party. So we are the holder of money. We're the holder of documents. We make sure that, again, as I said, we work on mutual agreements. So if you decide on your closing date, you've agreed upon that in your contract. If you agree to extend that, if you want to close sooner than that, all parties let us know that, and then we're able to proceed. If one party wants to cancel, as we were talking a little bit ago with Eric, the other party has to agree to do that. They have to agree to the split of the money. So imagine if you wrote an earnest money check and you just gave it to the seller of the home you were purchasing. Well, if you decided to cancel that transaction, you now are trying to get that money back from Mr. Seller, who's probably already deposited that and spent it. So we're kind of that safe zone for holding documents, for holding money. And the title side of what we do is researching that property. You know, we want to make sure that when you have closed that transaction, you're getting a property that doesn't have somebody else's mortgages, liens, judgments, debt. Our job is to research that property, and then we provide you with title insurance, which is just like an insurance policy that you would get for homeowners or anything else. It's one time, so you only pay that when you close escrow. And actually the seller provides you with a title policy that says, hey, all of my stuff is gone. My mortgage is paid off. All of those liens or judgments that I had on there are all taken care of. And you actually are getting clear and marketable title, which is what you want to be able to possibly sell that in the future. Now, if you're getting a loan to purchase this property, then you're going to be paying for, as a borrower, a title policy that your lender will want to have. And that title policy just says, hey, Mr. Lender, you're the only lender that I have on this property. There was a time, I think when Eric was talking about in 2008, but a little bit prior to that, people were getting a first deed and a second loan. So they had a first and a second on properties. So lenders want to know, where do they stand in that line to get repaid back if something were to happen where maybe you might not be able to make payment. So the policy that the buyer actually has to purchase to give to their lender says, you're my only lender. I don't have anybody else. And the property that I'm getting is marketable. There's nothing on it that's going to be of a detriment to the lender. Now, your closing costs, as we were just talking about, you're going to have closing costs from your lender. You're going to have your title policy that you're paying for that goes to your lender. You'll have an escrow fee. There'll be a recording fee because there's a couple of items that have to be recorded. So those fees go right to the county recorder. You might have a document fee if there's something that has to be prepared. Every title company is a little bit different. So whatever title company, escrow company that you might end up at, they all have various fees. I will tell you that we are all licensed by the insurance division. So we do have our fees regulated. We have to file them. And your agent can help you kind of choosing and picking sometimes. You can go to the Nevada Department of Insurance's website. You can actually go on there as a consumer. You can put in the sales price of the home you're going to purchase. It will actually give you every title company's fees. They're in alphabetical order, and you can see what their title fee and their escrow fee are. A lot of them have junk fees, as we call them, extra fees that they can throw on that are not filed with the insurance division. So I would just alert you as a consumer, when you look at some of those closing statements that have all of those figures on them, just be aware of some of those fees, extra work fee, some things they might throw on there that maybe just may not be necessary. You know, regular postage, you know, part of what we do is sometimes have to put things in the mail or email. So what's the postage? So just ask those questions, because sometimes you can get those removed from there, because we do call those junk fees. So you want to be careful. You might see a title company who has pretty low fees. However, they may throw on a bunch of junk fees, which really at the end of the day didn't benefit you.
Okay, thank you. So you've already talked about the closing cost breakdown, and these are just about everything that you talked about there. Let's see, property appraisal. Vicky, can you talk on that one a second? Do most lenders now require the buyer to pay that up front, or will some of them roll it into the closing cost to help out with that?
It will be collected at closing in most cases. For a regular, conventional, or FHA loan, the appraiser is a third party, and they're going to get paid whether we close the deal or not, right? Because they did work. So that does, unless it's a VA loan, and I'm sure a lot of lenders are the same. I can just speak from the companies that I've worked for. It does get paid up front, just like your earnest money. The buyer will go, you might get credited for it if the seller had agreed to pay it. Our VA loans, however, my company in particular and most others will go ahead and absorb that cost because of the VA status. Just on the screen, we're looking at transfer taxes. That is a government transfer tax in this market, and that gets determined when you first make your offer. You can ask the seller to pay that for you as a seller fee. So all these fees go into the APR, which when you know, nobody likes bad surprises, right? We like good surprises. I
Right.
like good surprises, but we don't want these to be a surprise to you when you go to get your keys, when you go to sign your loan documents. So by law, every lender, when you first fill out your application, you should get a worksheet or some kind of written estimate. I mean, I can throw numbers out there and anybody else can, but I like to put it in writing, and most reputable lenders will do that for you. And then when you get your offer accepted, every lender is required by law to give you, it used to be called a good faith estimate. It's now called a loan estimate. And that way, by law, and Marie can touch on this more, but we're going to compare. They're going to compare what we told you in the beginning to what you're getting at the end. And there's laws that protect you for that.
Okay, good. Okay. Now let's go through the 4 secrets for that stress-free transaction. Okay. So now we're to the most important part that everyone waits for, closing day. You get those, you're looking to get those keys. So your agent may, I'm going to be honest, your agent may or may not show up at the title company to help you with signing those. There's nothing there other than moral support. Marie, what percentage of agents have you seen showing lately?
Probably about 50%. Now, unfortunately, with respect to kind of what's happening, we are just asking that the consumer come to the signings just to cut back a little bit on those folks and being in the office. However, for me, if you can find a good agent that comes to closings and a lender that comes to closings, that's a pretty darn good team, because at the end of the day, it's like baking a cake. You put all the ingredients together, but if you don't ever put it in the oven, you really don't get that. And so that closing day is such a great day for those folks. They've worked hard for the last 2 months finding the house and getting their paperwork together and doing what their lender told them to do. And so it really is, for those people buying that first house, it's a really fun time and a good day for them. But only about 50% actually come to those signings.
Okay. Yeah. Here's one. Bring your identification. Need at least one picture ID when you go.
Could I just say real quick, it's always good to have a couple. Every lender is different. And so sometimes if you're not prepared with that second form of ID, then it's an issue for the notary. It's an issue because the lender's requiring that. So if you've got a passport, your social security card, or an organizational card, AARP, if maybe you're a senior or something to that effect, they can use that. So come prepared with 2, just in case.
Okay, good. And everyone who's purchasing needs to be there. If not, it's going to be a notary. There's a mobile notary somewhere, and a quick warning: if you're getting a loan, It may take a little bit longer because both need to be on the same paperwork, so you can't split it up. So if you're in Detroit and one person's in Miami, you're buying a house here in Las Vegas, paperwork may need to go to Detroit first, back to the title company, to Miami, and back here. So take that into account.
And if we could go back that communication in that video, that's what's really important, because we do find on the escrow side, sometimes it'll be a few days before closing and somebody will go, oh, the husband just had to go to so-and-so another state for work. Well, now we got 4 days to try to get docs someplace and get them back. So communication is huge when you're trying to plan these different things that all have to kind of conspire and come together.
Okay. Yep. And also, don't hide anything from your real estate agent, your lender, or your title company. It's only going to hurt you. And also,
They're going to find out.
they're going to find out.
They're going to find out.
You can't play Shaggy. It wasn't me. They're going to find out. They dig deep. And
They got computers now.
Yes. And so if you had that wife, husband that you so-called divorced 20 years ago, and you never really did divorce them, it's going to be found out.
Mm-hmm.
You may as well just talk about it up front so the proper paperwork can be done, because you're just going to not help yourself. This is actually not as true anymore. Not too many people bring that certified check. Most are going to wire that in, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because even with a certified check, you know, there's a time frame for getting those cleared. We've even had some, not recently, but there was a point in time where we were getting counterfeit certified checks. I mean, people are clever. I mean, if that's what you conspire and know how to do, some people are very good at doing that. So we really do, a wire is required for closing.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing to bring up, that's not here in the slides, that is an issue, is your real estate agent may have been hacked. Your lender may have been hacked. Anyone may have been hacked. In this day, that's a favorite pastime. So they sit around and they wait for the big deal. And you may be that big deal. You sold your house out in San Diego that you originally paid $150,000 for. You just sold it for $900,000. You came to Las Vegas, you bought a $600,000 house, and you're paying cash. That's their big payday. They don't run around messing with all these accounts that they've hacked on a daily basis. They just watch them. So you may even be hacked if somebody knows that you're buying a house. They'll wait until the title company sends those instructions for you to wire that $600,000. And then they intercept that, and then they put it into a new document forwarding to their bank account. I can remember 1 week after hearing about this was like a new crime, going down to sign with a client, and it just happened to a person who just bought an $800,000 house with cash. As he's sitting there, what am I going to do? My money's gone.
Where's my money?
It happens. So just be prepared to, when you get something from the title company, don't use that phone number they gave there, because they can dupe that also. The numbers that you got in the beginning, and you've been in contact with your title or escrow officer, call them and go, did you just send this document to me? They may have, but it's been intercepted. Get some key numbers from that and talk to them. Make sure that you're not wiring in money, because some kid, that $10,000, it may not be $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. To some college kid, that $10,000 is a lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you take care of that.
And if you're uploading documents to a particular lender's platform, make sure that all of that is very secure if you plan on doing all that stuff online.
Yes. Okay, so we're about to wrap it up here. Seller responsibilities, we need to talk about what their responsibilities are, other than to put that check in their pocket in the end. They're responsible for responding to the offers. Even if they have an offer on a house, you're legally allowed to put in another one unless they have in writing told their agent they're not accepting any more offers. Because what percentage have you seen of escrows fall out, Marie?
Well, of late, we've had a good number of them just because of kind of what's going on. But, you see a lot, 25, 30, for just various reasons, So,
Yeah. So some the agents just don't want to accept the offers and deal with it, but you are allowed to put it in. And I've put in offers on houses where it's like, no, we have something solid. Then 2 weeks later, remember that offer you put in 2 weeks ago? Is your buyer still interested? Yes. Okay. So that's why you can do that. They should be responding to your repair requests. Here's one that happened, and be careful of this one. We want to, we see your repair requests. We have no issues with them. We want to wait until the appraisal comes in case there are appraisal conditions, and we can handle them all at the same time. If something like that happens, make sure your agent writes an addendum to extend the due diligence to the date of the appraisal contingency or after. That way they can't go, your due diligence expired, so I don't have to respond. I've seen someone try that. So, yeah, they know what they're doing. Maintaining utilities. It's in the law. They have to have the utilities on from the listing period until the day of closing. So some of them will try to play the I don't want to pay the electricity trick. Make sure that doesn't happen. And if you go in there and let's say the gas is not on because they turned it off for safety reasons, guess what? Your due diligence doesn't start. So they've only hosed themselves and you've given yourself more time. This is a disclosure state. They're supposed to disclose. Make sure you get all those disclosures. Read them carefully because that's what covers your rear end. And finally, how they're supposed to leave the home. They're supposed to leave it broom swept. So they're not required to go and hire a cleaning service and make it all pretty and perfect for you. No, they're not. It's only supposed to be broom swept. So I'm just bringing that up right now. Well, I hope all of you have enjoyed our little webinar today. Been able to take away a good bit from it. As far as contact information, just reach out to the letter or the email that you responded to. We could send you whatever you want for contacts. Go to our website. We do a lot of community outreach. I want to thank Marie for being here. I want to thank Vicki for being here. Again, my name is Eric Hudson, and our job is to help you get into a home. It's not to sell you a home. That is the mission of NAREB, the Nevada Association of Real Estate Brokers. And I want to thank every one of you for being here today. Okay, let me stop the recording.